Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And the PFL World Tournament is back. 3 title fights this week. And as always, I'm here with my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
Carlos and I did a fantastic job last week, so things could come crashing and burning, or things could go on the same streak that it's been for this full card breakdown. You know what it is. Starting off in the early prelims, heading to the main event, giving our picks and predictions, and kicking things off in the early prelim opener. We have Isaiah Diggs taking on Damian Nelson. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Isaiah Diggs in this. Damian Nelson, he's got a big height and reach advantage. He's not really impressive striking. He's just more technical than Diggs. Diggs doesn't really have too much technical striking. If he throws an overhand or a hook, it's still kind of wild. The way Diggs closes the distance to get his takedowns, in my opinion, he should be adding an overhand right to that too, just to mix things up. But for now, he steps in, has a quick first step, gets right into the hips, gets a body lock, and I just feel he's going to get the takedowns and control Nelson. Maybe a little boring, maybe snuggling for a bit, but I think Diggs gets a decision just by controlling Nelson on the ground.
Yeah, 2 for Diggs here. I'm right there with you on this one. To me, when you look at Nelson training at Alongo MMA, he seems to struggle with pressure, and I do think that that's exactly what Diggs brings to most of his fights. He has fast entries on his takedowns, a very gritty, heavy pressure style when it comes to the wrestling. I do agree with Carlos, though. I do think his striking needs a bit of work, but I think those overhands could definitely catch a flat-footed Nelson in this fight. Throwing those overhands are going to set up his entries for his takedowns very well. And to me, when you look at Nelson, there's nothing that really stands out. He's very happy to be pressured. He's very happy to be flat-footed and standing in front of his opponent. He does throw good combinations with the hands, doesn't throw a ton of kicks, which obviously won't leave him open to be, his kicks getting caught and taken down here against a guy like Diggs. But the way that I see this fight, same as Carlos, pretty much getting the takedowns, rinse and repeat, a little bit of snuggling. I think he will be able to get top control and ride out rounds. And I think he gets on the mic and he hits him with the, "Can you dig it, sucker?" I think Diggs goes all the way here with the wrestling. And next up, we have Kennedy St. Louis taking on Chris Mixan. I'm going to kick this one off here. So to me, St. Louis, obviously, he's a pressure style wrestler. He likes to come forward. He likes to wing overhands and throw combinations to get opponents really with a high guard, just getting them backed up. And that's really going to help his entries here for his takedowns. When you look at a guy like Mixan, wasn't really too impressed with him. The gym that he trains out of is mostly a boxing gym, and it shows in a lot of his fights. Not a very high level of competition that he's had up until this point in his 7-fight pro career. When you looked at his record against a lot of his opponents, he's mostly just kickboxing against them. He tends to throw the occasional kick, but he's mostly looking to throw the hands. He seems to struggle really setting up some of his shots, and when he's fought against wrestlers in the past, they have been able to take him down. He stands very sort of upright as well, which I think is going to suit a guy like Lewis here. I do think that St. Louis is going to be able to mix in the grappling. He came off an impressive 3rd-round submission victory against Brahimai in his last fight. And I do think here that St. Louis is going to just implement that same wrestling heavy style. And with that forward pressure, I think that's going to take away some of the kicks of Maxim that he does like to throw. And I do think that those overhand rights that Lewis throws is going to be right there for him for the taking. He might land one of those and ultimately set up the takedowns here. So to me, it's going to be Kennedy St. Louis, pretty much similar to how Diggs fights. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here, except I think he's going to find the submission on the ground. St. Louis does a fantastic job as well of mixing in the ground and pound. So when he gets into these dominant positions, he's not necessarily going to lay and pray like Diggs might. I think he's going to go for that ground and pound, try and soften up his opponent and either find the choke or get that ground and pound victory. But feel pretty confident in St. Louis this week. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I am also going to go with St. Louis. I got to say, as you were talking about prior to this, it was a classic grappler versus striker. And if you don't have that pedigree or any bit of training to keep someone like St. Louis from taking you down, you're going to be in some deep water. And maybe he catches them with an uppercut on the way in or a wild overhand on the way out. But the odds are we're going to go with St. Louis on this one.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident here that he should be able to get this one done. If he can take down the Russian Brahim, he should be able to take down a flat-footed Maxim whose level of competition isn't very good. And next up, we have the human alphabets. We have Renat Khavalayev taking on Vilson Drajoj. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Ended up going with Khavalov in this one. I thought that Wilson could strike a bit. You know what I mean? Like he didn't look. It's not that he doesn't look impressive. He just looks like he's kind of a bully on the feet. Like he's going to throw things at 100 miles an hour and he's going to try to hurt you. Nothing wrong with that. But I just think he's definitely wrestle first, so that's good. It's going to make this fight competitive. Probably going to stay on the feet if that's the case. But it also looks like he's always scrambling. He's always in constant motion on the ground, which is good if you're going from position to position. But he never really looks like he has a secured takedown because he's always looking to kind of go around the world and maybe throw a little ground and pound in between there. Got no problem with that. He's got a lot of finishes on ground and pound. But with Khavalov, it looks like when he goes for his takedowns, he's looking to secure it. He's looking to get the good position so that he can look for either submissions or ground and pound. And for me, when a guy likes to be a little stable and get control over his opponent, whether it's in the clinch or on the ground, I feel like he's going to have the upper hand when it comes to the grappling. He's going to have a hard time trying to keep Wilson in one spot because this guy, like I said, he does scramble a lot. Kind of reminds me of, we were just talking about this, Arman Sarukian. Always moving, always on the go, always getting takedowns, always scrambling. So I'm going to go with Khavalov. I'm not very confident in this one either, but I think that his striking is decent. I think Wilson's a little unpredictable, so Khavalov defensively needs to be ready because there could be a strike that comes out of nowhere, and then he's going right for the takedown after it lands. So, yeah, either way, I'm still going with Khavalov in this.
Yeah, this one was tough for me. I'm actually going to go with the upset here in Dragoj, or if, I'm not sure I'm butchering that Albanian name there, but I'm going with the upset. I wasn't too impressed with Renat. Obviously, Renat training with Habib Nurmagomedov, the school of Nurmagomedov. Very grinding, heavy Dagestani wrestling style. But when you watch some of his previous fights, he seems to struggle to be able to get fights to the ground against higher level guys. His last fight in the PFL being an example of that. Really just was able to hold his opponent against the fence. Really just make it a boring, gritty fight, throwing knees, throwing elbows in the clinch, rabbit punches, but wasn't able to really have that, heavy wrestling, body lock, trip takedown, grind you out on the ground, beat you up, Dagestani handcuff, style that we're used to seeing from the Dagestani guys. And he just didn't seem like that high level wrestler that I expected him to be, especially when you see, who's in his corner and where he trains. And to me, when you look at his striking hasn't really been, tested or implemented too much yet. And when you go over to his opponent, Wilson, obviously the guy fighting out of UAE Warriors, I'm sure that he's been tested a little bit more. Obviously, he had a couple more fights than what Renat has. And I think he's more dangerous. And I think damage being the main criteria in MMA, I think he's the guy that's going to do more damage. Obviously, a wrestling base that he comes from, but and I do agree with Carlos that, his striking isn't necessarily all that. He does kind of wing overhands, wing hooks, wing punches, throw head kicks. But I just like the fact that he's going to come in here and look to do a little bit more damage. I think the odds on this one are far too wide. I wouldn't be surprised if Renat comes in here and proves me wrong and shuts me up. Dagestani fighters have done that in the past, especially last week on the last PFL card that we had with Movled coming in and getting the upset against Jesus Pineda. But I just like the damage side of this one here for Wilson. I think Wilson's going to come in here, try and take off Renat's head. I think at some point he might catch him. And I just didn't like what I've seen in previous fights here from Renat. So give me Wilson Dragoj, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name, to get this one done in the upset. A little bit of dissension here on the Ground and Pound podcast, but that's what you tune in for here on the show. And if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as we break down the fight that everybody wants to see, the one that everybody wants to pay attention to. We have Sara Orozco, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name, against Sabrina de Sousa. Carlos, who you got in this one?
You know what I just noticed? They put a little shadow there so you could see some cleavage. Thanks, guys. Didn't know that was a woman there. Let's see what we got here. I went with Sabrina de Sousa in this one. I feel that she's going to be a lot more physical than Orozco. Orozco doesn't, just the strikes that she throws, she doesn't seem to inflict a lot of damage. I necessarily don't understand why she's always trying to get this to the ground. Yeah, I mean, I've seen her just get like bullied by other fighters. Maybe she's just not on the level of most of the people. Like, cause she's she's kind of fighting she's kind of finding some animals that I saw on the tape study, and she hadn't been able to get a takedown at all. But on her regional fight, she's able to get takedowns and secure them and go for submissions, and her strikes were actually effective. So either way, I'm going to say De Sousa carries a little bit more snap in her strikes. She's willing to stand and fight. She's willing to get in the clinch. She's willing to, be a little gritty. She's also willing to swing, and she swings with everything she's got. Um, Obviously, not a lot of pro experience, but she's got a ton of amateur fights, and she just looks a little sharper. So I'm going to give her the upper hand in this, and I'm going to Sousa.
Yeah, Orozco to me is just this to me just looks like a fight where they want to show off, Sousa's striking ability and how good she looks on the feet, and kind of, you know, a showcase bout, if you will. And obviously, you need a legit dance partner that's going to stand in there. And I think that's exactly what she has here with Orozco. She is pretty much that gritty Mexican style. She's got a decent chin. She will come in and mix in takedowns. She'll make a fight dirty. Sometimes the third round is her best round after she's been beaten up in the first two. She kind of, weathers a little bit of a storm. She hangs in there and ends up kind of still pushing in the third to ultimately lose decisions anyway. I think she's very low level. I don't think she's a good fighter. 34 years old as well, getting up there in age. And she really just likes to make fights dirty. I just don't think she's a very skilled fighter. But when you talk about skilled fighters, you got to look at this lady, De Sousa. De Sousa, three-time IMMAF world champion. That's the world champion of mixed martial arts, the amateur scene. She's, like Carlos said, she's got a very, very big credentialed amateur background. And when you watch tape on this girl, I like her striking. She's very powerful, very fast hands. She's definitely the better athlete in this fight. And I think wherever this fight goes, she should be fine. Training with the HK MMA team, which is the same gym that I talked about previously with Islam, Ikram, all of those heavy, sort of Dagestani Russian wrestlers that are over there. She's in the right gym. She's in a great place to be. Very fast hands, good footwork as well. I haven't seen too much in the way of her takedowns, but when you see this girl strike, I think that it's going to be enough for her to get it done here against pretty much a punch bag here in Saraya. I think this is going to be one-way traffic, as I always say. Give me De Sousa here to get this one done. Feel fairly confident. And I do believe she is a huge favorite on the betting odds as well. And I just wanted to point out, Carlos, that that's actually not a female pick. That's actually Martin Budai's shadow, just to let you know. And next up, we have Ali Walsh taking on Adrian Grundy. And I'm going to kick this one off here. And obviously, Ali Walsh, everybody knows. You've heard it a million times on the PFL. They love to talk about it. Him being the grandson of the former heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. And Grundy here stepping in, pretty much just a kickboxing style matchup here, striker versus striker. And Grundy doesn't necessarily mix in a whole lot of wrestling and a whole lot of takedowns. He looks very, very low level. I think this is an ideal opponent here to get Ali Walsh back in the win column after that upset that he had in his previous fight. Obviously, him getting taken down and arm triangled. And when you look at Grundy and you look at his tape, he doesn't necessarily carry a whole lot of power because he doesn't turn into his shots very well. Very much arm punches, very much just kind of throwing stuff out there. And when you watch a lot of his fights, he does, out of the four that he's got, most of them do go to a decision. So he doesn't necessarily have to worry about the power coming back here for Ali Walsh. He doesn't have to worry about the takedowns either. And I think that's going to be one recipe that Ali Walsh will be able to implement here. Is just really just standing and trading. It's just really getting into the pocket here, walking Grundy down, getting in his face, using the boxing, using the power, using the athleticism that he does carry in those hands, and getting back in the win column with the knockout here. Grundy does leave his chin a little bit exposed as well. Especially when he sort of exits the pocket. I like Ali Walsh this week. I like him to get back in the win column here and find the knockout. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Well, I got Ali Walsh, but from the last fight, I had my doubts. I had a feeling that they brought that guy in because they didn't know how good his ground game was. Didn't have a lot of pro fights, and they thought it was going to be easy. Now, if you're getting a guy who pretty much is going to stand and bang, he knows he's going to go. This is kind of one of those matchups where I feel Ali Walsh should be trying to use more of his ground game. Maybe throw some strikes to close the distance and then start to get comfortable working your ground in the ring. I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you don't work your grappling in front of people, you're going to end up having the same result as you did in his previous fight. And that's going to happen about 3 or 4 more times until he gets comfortable using the grappling aspect. Because right now I don't even know if he's striking, grappling second. He's more like grappling third. He's boxing, kickboxing, then grapples. So if I were him, I would come out, try to close the distance with strikes. Don't even get into an exchange, unless you feel like you want to get back in the win column right away, get a knockout, get the fans going again. But I would grapple, grapple, grapple. I would throw a lot of strikes just to get on the inside, slip some of his shots, and work your grappling and work the ground and pound. But either way, I think he's going to win, whether it stays standing or on the ground. So I'm going to go with Ali Walsh in this.
And next up, a ground and pound favorite, especially with the last name, we have Shakalova taking on Junior Velasquez. I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. You going with the ground and pound favorite in this one?
I am going with Shakalova. Now, one of the reasons why I'm with it is because Juliana Velasquez, what she has to do is she wants to strike, and yes, she does want to grapple as well, just a little bit, but she kind of wants to clinch you up against the cage and throw some knees and some elbows, all that goodness. But Shakalova's a mover. She bounces in and out. She bounces all around. She's very hard to keep in one spot. And what I think happened in the first fight is totally possible happen in the second fight. I think she's going to bounce around. Velasquez is going to get probably a little annoyed that she can't get a clean shot. And when she's going to get annoyed, she's going to jump in and try to land something. And that's where Shakalova is probably going to take her down. Shakalova also can take a shot as well. She's taken a lot of heavy shots in some of her previous fights just to get takedowns, and she'll stand up and much like Jenna Bishop, she will trade. So there's a huge height reach advantage in this one, but I think she's gonna cut that distance with the grappling. So I'm gonna go with Shakalova one more time.
Yeah, 2 for Shakalova here. Obviously, I didn't expect that last fight to go how it did. For those of you that don't remember, Shakalova coming in, getting the early takedown and finding the back, finding the rear naked choke here. And Velasquez has just not looked good in especially her last 4 or 5 fights. She does call Liz Carmouche daddy. For those of you that didn't know, Liz Carmouche has beaten her 3 straight times. And obviously now losing to Shakalova, they've got the rematch going here, and I expect it to look very similar. I think this one might go to a decision this time. I think that Shakalova really caught her off guard with that rear naked choke. Obviously, Velasquez, a judo practitioner, 38 years old as well, does have the height and reach advantage, like Carlos said, but I think Shakalova's forward pressure is a little bit too much for her. I think that she's definitely got a little bit more grit, a little bit more belief in her career. She's still got that youth on her side as well. She's still coming up in the sport as well. I think that she's on her ascent while Velasquez is on her descent. She's fallen down the mountain like an avalanche at this point, to be honest. But I think Shakalova gets this one done again. I think that she's more inclined to get this one done by decision, mixing in the striking, trying to get a little bit more of her grappling going and top pressure. But I think Velasquez is just going to be able to hold out to a decision here. But I do think Shakalova is going to get this one done, being the bigger dog, being the more inclined to mix in the grappling and the striking. Shakalova. And next up, we have Robert Watley taking on Mads Burnell. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm going with Mads Burnell in this. I just think that all around, I think he's a better fighter. There's going to be a little bit of a reach advantage for Watley, but Mads Burnell's always got that issue. He's usually the shorter guy, so he's okay. He's used to that. Watley, from what I've seen, he bounces around, kind of comes in with a strike, and to me, I don't see him to be very effective. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen a lot of video on him. A lot of stuff I've seen has been a little older. So I know he does like to grapple, and if you want to grapple with Mads Burnell, that's fine. That guy's a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner and a good wrestler as well. So I think he's got the upper hand there. I think he's got the upper hand striking. And although he doesn't throw with big power, he throws with a lot of volume. So it's going to be up to Watley to come in shape because Burnell is going to pressure you. So I'm going with Burnell in this one.
Yeah, two for Mads Burnell here. I wasn't that impressed with Robert Watley. To me, Robert Watley, he just carries his hands very low. He reminds me of like a poor, wish to me version of Bobby Green, King Green, whatever you want to call the guy. Watley to me is just he just sucks, if I'm being really honest with you. He's very light on his feet. He will mix in wrestling. I think this is a big step down in competition for a guy like Mads Burnell. And there's no secret, he did lose to J.J. Wilson in his last fight. But J.J. Wilson went to a very, very close decision with Rabadanov. I don't think there's any harm in losing to J.J. Wilson. He looks like a fantastic fighter, very well-rounded. And he did have a fairly close first round, very competitive first round in that fight as well. So Mads Burnell likes to pressure forward. He likes to throw a lot of volume. He likes to be the one moving forward. He'll crash the pockets with elbows. And he will, obviously, like Carlos said, he will throw up triangles, arm bars, look to sweep on the off of his back when he does get taken down. So I do think wherever this fight goes, I do think Burnell will obviously be the better, more skilled fighter. I do think that this one plays out most likely on the feet. I think that Burnell will basically, I don't want to say be even in the first round, but I think that he'll get his reads early in the first round. Watley has a little bit of a unique style, carrying his hands low and kind of bouncing around. I think over the course of 3 rounds, Mads Brunell's going to break him down. He's going to use his boxing, use his pressure, and ultimately find the decision victory here to get back into the win column. And next up, another ground and pound mascot, another ground and pound favorite here. We have Justin Wetzell turning guys into a pretzel, taking on Marshally Alvarez. I probably butchered that name, but Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm going with Wetzell in this one. Now, Alves, I think he's, I guess if you want to say dog, he's got that little bit of anger. He's, what is that, shoot the box? So he comes out fighting exactly how you would expect him to fight. He's gritty, he's tough, and he's aggressive from start to finish. I just feel with this height and reach advantage that Wetzell's got, Wetzell just seems like a guy that sticks to the game plan. He comes in, and is he the most athletic? No, but does he do everything correctly to get the victory, to hit to his best advantage? He does. If Alves comes in where he's going to have the advantage throwing his combinations, Wetzell's probably just going to wrap him up and try to take him to the ground. If Alves is on the outside, Wetzell's going to throw strikes from the outside. So I feel that Wetzell should be confident enough to take him anywhere it needs to go. I didn't pick him last time, and I didn't pick him the first time, Mr. Wetzell, but I'm picking him this time because when you watch those fights, I feel outmatched physically when it came to physical ability and talent, athleticism, but he's a fighter. He just knows how to do it, and he sticks to the plan. So I'm going with Wetzell.
Yeah, Carlos and I were both saying at the start of this before we went live that Justin Wetzell does a fantastic job of sticking to a game plan, and that's why he has so much success. That's why he's been on this run so far in this tournament. He comes in, he knows what he wants to do. He wants to big dog people. He's huge for the weight class. He mixes in takedowns very well, and he sticks to that game plan throughout. And it served him very, very well. I did pick Wetzell in the last fight. I didn't pick him in the fight before that, but unfortunately, man, I got to jump off the train here. I'm going to go with Alvarez. Alvarez has also been on a pretty nice run recently, coming off that win against Jake Hadley, former Jungle Fight bantamweight champion. Fast and more athletic striker in this matchup. He does stand southpaw. I think he can blast kicks here against Wetzell. And I do think that his takedown defense has been fairly solid. He does, have good urgency to get back to his feet. He is a little bit low volume, but I think in this fight that might serve him fairly well. Not overextending on shots, on combinations for him to get taken down from a wrestle-heavy game plan like Wetzell has. I think throwing those one big shot at a time could maybe find the chin here of Wetzell at some point. Obviously, Wetzell's cardio is fantastic, so he can take a shot, but I think those bigger moments are going to be on the side of Alves doing the damage. I could see maybe a well-timed uppercut or a knee here when Wetzell shoots him for a takedown. And obviously, Wetzell training with some high-level guys like, Chepe Mariscal, Rafa Garcia, even like Corey Sandhagen, I've said before in the past, has been in his corner. I'm sure they're going to have a good game plan for a guy like Alves, but I think both of these guys have been on an ascent so far in this tournament. but I just trust Alvarez's youth and his athleticism a little bit more here. And it's a shame because I do like the Justin Wetzell. He has become a little bit of a favorite here between me and Carlos with the nickname that, or the phrase that Carlos gave him previously, folding people into a pretzel, Justin Wetzell. But I am going to get on the Alvarez train this week. So a little bit of dissension here for the fan favorite here on the Ground and Pound podcast.
He's a bum, Wetzell. He's a bum.
He ain't been hungry since he wore that belt. And next up, we have the co-main event. And if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we talk about Liz Carmouche taking on Jenna Bishop. Carlos, who you got in this one?
This one was a little difficult. And, at 41, Carmouche is trying to figure out, in her last outing, she said she wanted to use a little bit more of her stand-up. She wanted to get a knockout. That's great. But even in that fight, when it started to get a little shaky on the feet, she's able to take the girl down and just kind of hold her and do whatever she needed to do with her. Now, against Bishop, that's great. Bishop is game. You know what I mean? She wants to come in. She wants to mix it up on the feet. The thing is if you're not feeling comfortable on the feet and you want to take it down, Bishop is very dangerous on the ground. Now, I understand that Carmouche is named Gorilla, okay? But I'm going to go with her because even though she's slightly older, they're close in age, so it's not that big of a difference. I just think she's a little bit too physically strong for Bishop to actually get the submissions. I think she can power out of positions. I think she can stuff positions like a wrestler would because she has very good wrestling as well. And I think that if she wants to go for a submission, she's more than likely to get it because I think she's got that squeeze. So I'm going with Liz Carmouche to get this one done.
Yeah, 2 for Liz Carmouche here. And one thing I do have to point out here is Carmouche in her last fight came in and probably looked like in the best shape that I've seen her in her whole professional career. She looked fantastic coming in, getting that win. She is a savvy veteran. She's got good jiu-jitsu off of her back. Very good power in her hands, and I think that's going to be the telling underlying factor here against Jenna Bishop. And I do agree with Carlos. Obviously, Jenna Bishop, a BJJ practitioner, very good off of her back, always looking to sweep, always looking to get fights to the ground where she can have success, throw up triangles. 2 lone losses have come against Dakota Ditchever and Tyler Santos, so not bad losses, but I think we're going to look at a third one here for Liz Carmouche getting the victory here. And to me, what this fight really comes down to is when Jenna Bishop can't get the takedown, she's going to want to make this a dog fight. She's going to want to get in the face of Carmouche. I think she's going to come in a little bit overzealous and get caught here by Carmouche. Whether Bishop's able to hold on for a decision and Carmouche wins on the judges' scorecards based on damage is a whole nother story. But I wouldn't be surprised if Carmouche puts her out here with the hands. And I know that Liz Carmouche has talked previously. They talked about it in her last fight that she wanted to make one big sort of run towards the PFL to actually win the tournament, and I think she's doing that. She seems very, very serious. She seems very locked in here, and I think as long as she stays on the feet here and kind of just minds her P's and Q's, if the fight does go to the ground, I think she should be able to have all the success against a woman like Jenna Bishop. Like Carlos said, both women, up there in respective age, 39, 41. It's not like we're looking at young versus old here. Obviously, 41, she can fall off a cliff at any point with her skill set, but the way that she looked in her last fight, I'm not going to doubt the girl. I think that she gets her hand raised here and wins this tournament. Give me Liz Carmouche. I think she might even find a finish on the feet. And that brings us to the main event of the evening. We have Alfie Davis taking on Gaji Rabadanov. The man has been on an absolute tear. Carlos, do you think he gets it done, or are you going with the British man, Alfie Davis?
Davis is already upset 2 of my picks anyway, so I don't feel confident that he's going to win this. I feel that Gazi's actually get this done within the distance, probably 3rd round. I'd say maybe 2nd, but I'm going with Rabadanov. Davis has been a surprise the first 2 rounds. He's, with the knockout of, oh my goodness, what was that guy? Anyway, in the first round, and in the second, Clay Collard, that's right, in the second round against, I'm drawing a blank again.
Brent Primus.
Sorry. Brett Primus, old man brain. So, yeah, he did a very good job there. But what I do feel is that on the feet, I think that Gazi can be just a little bit more dangerous because he's fighting and he's a little bit more technical when it comes to his punching. And you got to watch out for that left hook. And he keeps his defense very sharp while he's up. the thing with Davis that you got to watch out for is that he loves spinning attacks and he loves kind of just throwing his kicks up out of nowhere. Even against Primus, like he threw an axe kick up. Yeah, it didn't land, but I think it caught him like on the edge of his shoulder. So he never saw it coming is the thing. And when you have educated feet like that and you just throw strikes out of nowhere, and his hand position very awkward. He holds it like it's Taekwondo sometimes, and you don't know where the strike's coming from. That could be dangerous for Rabadanov, and Rabadanov is not a striker. So just to keep a tight envelope with his guard and to keep a high guard and, be a little cautious on the way in, I would say throw your strikes, control him on the ground. I don't think he'll have a problem keeping Alfie down if he wanted to or taking him down. But either way, I think he's going to get this done within the distance. So I'm going with Rabadanov.
Yeah, and just to stick up for my boy Carlos before we started this off, Carlos actually riddled off both of those names. It's just one of those moments. But I got to say, man, I'm going with you. Rabadanov looks like a guy that's just a man possessed right now. You can't get in the way of this guy. And he's not even doing it in boring, gritty, Dagestani style fashion of heavy wrestling. He's knocking people the fuck out on the feet. And I don't know where this has come from. Like Carlos said, tight left hook, fast hands. And a guy like Alfie Davis, don't get me wrong, he has nice striking, bounces around on the outside, has great kicks. And he's been on an absolute tear as well. I do agree with Carlos. He's actually been more of a surprise to me that he's been able to get the victories against a heavy wrestler, a guy that has boxing, that has heavy pressure, that's usually a weapon that a lot of people struggle with, that have that sort of bouncing, kickboxing style. It takes away a lot of the kicks when you're a guy that likes to box and, kind of move forward. So I was surprised he was able to get through both of those opponents in Clay Colliard and Brent Primus. And when you look at this matchup here, I think Rabadanov goes back to the wrestling. I think that would be a great way for him to get this victory and seal this tournament victory, win in the finals here, get back to the roots, get back to the Dagestani style. I think he can mix in grappling here. And would I be surprised if he knocked him out on the feet with the way that his hands have looked recently? Absolutely not. But it's a second weapon that he can use. It's another thing for Alfie Davis to worry about here. Either way, I see Rabadanov getting this one done, whether it be with the wrestling or the hands. Let's say he falls in love with his hands and Alfie Davis catches him on the feet. I think Rabadanov's tough. I think he gets back into the wrestling. He'll take Alfie Davis down to survive. Or, he goes right to that wrestling and he mixes in the hands in moments when Alfie Davis gets back to his feet. Either way, I think this is one-way traffic, as I like to say. Give me Rabadanov here to get this one done and win the tournament. And if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, as always, I have to let you guys know what's coming on the channel. We have the Dog of the Week, full highlight reel tape for UFC 319. Hamzat Chimaev taking on Dricus du Plessis, my favorite betting underdog. Check that one out. And obviously, we have the full card breakdown. Will be live on the channel shortly. UFC 319, full detailed breakdown there for you guys. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button before we let Carlos say what he wants to say to the people.
I just want to say, give me a minute and I'll be able to get my mind together. I can't believe I forgot Cassius Clay Collard. How do you forget a name like that? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Catch you in the next one, people. Peace.
Peace.